Hi, it's Dr. Noel Williams, Optimal Health Associates, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Cinco de Mayo, baby.
Oh my gosh.
That made Kim feel like vomiting, I'm sure. I hope everyone's feeling well. Mother's Day is this weekend. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. So I think that's very important. It's a very important holiday these days since we're diminishing the value of mothers and fathers, but we won't even go there. I've done that enough already. But there are mothers and there are not mothers. So that's how it is. And even Gavin Newsom said that men didn't have the right to comment about abortion because they couldn't understand. So that goes against the woke movement, which, yes, I was taking my socks off because I hate wearing socks. Anyway. So COVID update. COVID's making a little reappearance with the B variant. Not a surprise. We're going to have a little uptick. Um, across the country. I'm not really particularly worried about anything with COVID now. I think a most people have gotten a baseline vaccine or infection. That's going to be super retardant if you've already gotten Omicron, which a huge number of people have. As the guy at Mount Sinai at NYU has said, you really don't have anything to worry about. We've had, though, 6 new COVID cases in the last week. They've all been standard cough, cold, congestion to start with. There are no antibodies in Oklahoma City that we can find. The only, which I'll make a comment on in a second, is why is there no antibodies now, even though we have antibodies that work against Omicron? Oh, because we have outpatient remdesivir, which is, gadzooks more expensive. And I do want to be very clear, outpatient remdesivir works if it starts within the first, 3 to 4 days, maybe even by the 5th day of symptoms, but probably definitely by the 3rd. But it's a much more toxic intervention, but it is a very effective intervention. But antibodies were completely safe, but those are gone. So Gilead keeps on making more and more money. I love it, how it works. I saw the data yesterday that Moderna's made $21 billion so far on their COVID vaccines, which again, I'm glad we had a vaccine to give. But again, that seems very interesting and to me. So anyway, COVID's going to continue. Don't get spastic about it. Be glad the masks are gone on the airplanes. If you want to wear a mask, it's like having a chain link fence, to quote someone I was talking to, trying to stop a gnat. It's micron size. It's micron size. The microns size of masks, even N95, are much too large for the particles to not get through. So they get through. And that's been shown in studies, but God forbid we would apply any science, as you always hear me talk about. So sorry about that for still being on that horse. I mean, if you just think about what we were a week and a half ago, or the Friday before, the last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, Fauci was like the court system and no one should have any say in our public health except the CDC people because they know everything, which I'm going to comment on subsequently. And then by Tuesday of last week, because of the politics, he was like, no, the pandemic's over, which it is essentially. It's an endemic now, or epidemic, but it's still coming down. But then now we have the thing to distract from all of that with the abortion stuff, which is really an interesting subject, which I don't want to get too involved with because I'll probably offend people. But I mean, you have on one hand, you have the liberals who are like, vaccinate everyone, mandate it, do this, people have no choice. And then we had the more conservatives, on average, saying, that's wrong, that's crazy, we get to make our own choices with our bodies. And then they flip-flop on the abortion issue, which is very illogical. You're either, you believe people have a right to handle their own medical decisions, or you don't. So just an interesting conundrum to be in. So that's COVID. What else were we supposed to talk about, Kim?
I don't know. I have a couple of questions. If you
Oh,
want.
ask some questions, and then I'll ramble about long haul COVID because
Okay.
we've had some. Well, I'll do that first. We've had some fabulous successes with improving. I don't want to. I have to use the right words. Improving people's outcomes who've had long haul with a variety of different techniques just to be aware of. We found that, a different inhaler than most people use, one that's more both for acute reactive asthma and inflammation works better. We've had some success with some more natural approaches. I mean, even some transcendent improvements in some long haul severe lung patients. So all different things we can do, but again, that takes an appointment and me talking to you because the FDA doesn't want us to talk about anything that could work that is not FDA approved, which is kind of crazy, but it is life. So what are your questions, honey?
So in your last video, as like in this one, you talked about masks. So one person asked, if masks don't work, why do doctors and dentists wear them?
There's a difference between a mask to stop splatter of, of fluids like feces, blood, saliva into your face and going into your mouth or into your nose is A. Likewise, if you're a spitter and you don't want to be, and some people have a tendency to do that, you don't want to be spewing your germs directly into someone's wounds or abraded surfaces. Viruses are different. Viruses is a different thing.
Okay. A couple of different people asking about brain fog and continuous headaches after COVID. Do you see that often? Is there something they can do? That kind of thing.
So the brain fog is from inflammation. And there's a definite trend to have inflammation in the brain from COVID. So that can catabolize some of your neurotransmitters. And so you're more fuzzy-headed, plus the inflammatory mediators can affect your limbic system, which includes your hippocampus and your amygdala, which aren't things we think about as much in general in medicine. And so you can do things such as fish oil, you can do things N-acetylcysteine, you can do turmeric. Those are all very natural things that could be helpful. There's other things you can do that are more non-traditional. There's an FDA-approved thing, Cerefolin NAC, that's methylated folic acid, B12, and N-acetylcysteine. That's an approved FDA medical food for dementia prevention and reduction. And so again, it's a very potent anti-inflammatory in the brain. So again, Cerefolin NAC, methylated folic acid, B12, and N-acetylcysteine. You can always get those separately, and so you don't have to get a prescriptive version of it. And then there's other things, again, that we do for those types of conditions that have to do with more cellular medicine and augmenting cellular function and restoring cellular function through sometimes with ozone or umbilical, what's the phrase? I don't want human cord tissue, human cellular
tissue products.
Human cellular tissue products, because there's been 46 different names now for stem cell derivatives. So we're trying to use the latest one the FDA has said to use. So that's what we're doing, human cellular tissue products.
That's what I got.
Okay. So is there a role for getting the booster? I get asked this all the time. I still don't see any evidence that it actually matters. And the second thing, I mean, real data. There's lots of people screaming they matter and waning immunity. The problem with Omicron and the problem with Delta was and continues to be with Omicron, the original vaccines don't cover it that well. So you are more likely to have a failure of your vaccine for that, and you can get infected. But the failure is you can get infected, but you don't usually get as sick. There's data out of Helsinki and several other places. Well, Helsinki is the main one, where the more vaccines you get, the more likely you are to get Omicron, because we've talked about antigenic sin, original antigenic sin. So again, same themes all the time. And just to finish, just because I do love the CDC and FDA and what they've achieved, if we didn't question the CDC, we would not. If you believe the CDC didn't make mistakes, I kind of listed them in my brain, but we'll start with the initial test that failed for COVID when there was one readily available that they wouldn't use because they couldn't patent it. The World Health Organization test has always been the gold standard. It is the gold standard and essentially remains the gold standard test, but we wouldn't use it in the United States. We wouldn't because the CDC was going to do their own, which failed, and then it took them forever once it failed to get it going. They said masks don't work. And so why on one hand do I say masks don't work now when they could have worked before? Masks only work as a mitigation strategy to delay the initial pandemic or epidemic. They're never a treatment, a full-term preventive strategy. And then once we went from original to Delta, the replication rate of the virus went so high that it didn't matter. It was all about filtration systems. So, and Omicron's even more reproductive. So again, so that was wrong. They said steroids didn't work. That was wrong. They said, well, some people still are going to debate hydroxychloroquine. I won't even talk about that. They said remdesivir would work outpatient or inpatient. It doesn't. The data's replete. They wouldn't allow any studies on remdesivir outpatient. Oh, it did work outpatient when it was finally studied. They said it wasn't. They said it was only a droplet spread virus. I mean, I could just keep going. It's just they've made so many errors for them to say that they should never be questioned is insanity. But enough of that. So on a more positive note, happy Cinco de Mayo. Make sure you're getting back on track with your mammograms, your pap smears, your colonoscopies, your PSAs for guys. We don't want this big uptick in cancer to happen that we're all worried about. We're seeing tons and tons. Unfortunately, we've had the most cancers in the last 3 months or 4 months ever, practically, with GYN related cancers. And so and most of those are not delayed in diagnoses. I don't know what's going on with that. I have some ideas, but who knows why all of a sudden we're getting all these new cancers in patients is pretty weird, but maybe it's COVID and the inflammatory process. So keep your appointments with your doctors, say thank you to them. They're trying hard in difficult circumstances. And thanks to my wife, who's awesome, and all my children for their support, and our son Gideon's doing much better. And mostly of all, thank you for all your prayers and love, because we would have never made it. I would have never made it. I was at the point, it was horrible. I could laugh about it, but it was horrible because it was so awful. And we were so overwhelmed with how much love and care we've gotten. And thank you. It really has meant a lot. And it's been very life-changing for me to be that loved. I mean, I've been loved, but I mean, this was overwhelming. And I think Kim feels that way too. So thanks to everyone. And thanks to all my doctor friends. Big shout out to Bill Monrett and Carl Roskowski and the rest of the crews who help us get through every day. Thanks.